Now, the biggest thing is communicate. Don't leave anything missed. Just write down everything. That way, everyone's on the same page. Even with your trades, write it down for your trades. Even so, everyone's on the same ballpark, and there's nothing can go wrong.
G'day guys, welcome to the MTDC Lounge. This is a podcast about the construction industry and what you can expect. Whether you're a bright-eyed renovator, a budding developer, or a seasoned vet, we will dive into the construction world, touching on what to expect, what's next, and how to go about it. We'll hear from a heap of experienced consultants and trades. Be sure to tune in for all aspects. So let's get stuck into the next episode. G'day guys, and welcome to another episode on the Lounge. You're here with Matt, and today I've got Dom Borg from DBC Northern Edge. He is one of, arguably, probably one of the best chippies in Sydney. How are you, mate? How's things?
Good, thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me.
No, that's not a problem, mate. Not a problem. Yeah, tonight I'm going to ask you a couple of questions because I want to get our listeners to be completely aware of, you know, what a chippy does or a carpenter does, and what's the most important thing about you guys. Most builders at the moment are foundationally carpenters, and I guess it's important to understand, you know, where you guys fit in and what you do.
Yeah, there's a massive range just being a chippy. Like, especially in terms like groundworks even. So, you know, there's plenty of on it.
Well, mate, I mean, how long have you been in the industry for?
14 years.
14 years. Yeah, nice one. So, and throughout the 14 years, tell the guys about it, I suppose, but so there's a couple of versions of chippies that you'd find. You got your framing chippies, and you got your fixed out chippies and things like that.
Yeah.
And I guess what do you specialize in, do you think?
Basically all rounder. So even from formwork. Yeah, we'll do mostly formwork, framing, just all the way to fit out.
Yeah, nice one. So when we're talking about framing, what does fit out mean for the guys at home?
Fit out is mainly your finishes. Yeah. What you're going to be looking at once you lay the gyprock, you know, you're against appliances, skirting and architraves, you know, window details. That's your fit out. So the skirting and the architraves, they're the surrounds around the windows. They're the timbers down the bottom of the wall. Yeah. Nice one. And then you also kind of lean into the detail stuff as well. So when you want the nice detail finishes on the walls, like I guess like the VJ board or the cladding up on the walls and. Yeah. For those who don't want like gyprock finishes, they'll go the V joint, or they might have, you know, something a little different, like grooved panels. Could be any shape and size, but they do it, you know.
And the fixed out chippies, they come right at the end, or they kind of I guess they kind of take they come in dribs and drabs throughout the build to kind of finish it off, so the jobs keep going, but ultimately right at the end the fit out chippies are where they kind of come into their own, right?
Yeah, that's right. So once all the gyprock's been finished off, and then your detailed chippies will come in. They'll fit the doors, do the arcs, do the handles, and basically finish off the job, ready for paint.
That's right. And then obviously that's when they get to the next stages throughout their contract or the build contracts, where you know they're getting close to handover.
Yeah, exactly. So once the paint's finished, appliances are in, you'd be looking at the lockup.
So the fixed out chippies, the things that do all the pretty stuff. But I guess the framing chippies, they're the guys that do the bulk of the work at the start and make sure that all the walls are where they need to be. Talk us through that.
Yeah. So the framing chippies, like, it's a bit of a shame all of it gets covered up, because even still, there's heaps of detail, especially in like roofing for boys who like to pitch their roofs. You know, all that detail.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, in terms of like, I guess in terms of plans and things like that, what do you like to see on a set of plans when it comes to the full construction plan, from the moment a client comes to you and go, hey Dom, I want you to put my house together. What do you want to see? What are the first things that you look for on a set of plans that you know says I'm ready to do this?
Detail. Just, I want to see a lot of measurements. Yeah. Everything just to be worked out the way it's supposed to. especially if you're trying to work out from one end to another and the numbers don't line up, or if there's numbers missing, there's obviously some discrepancy within like the rooms.
Yep.
So when there's numbers missing, it just makes it hard to work out what's allowed for. And, just from then, it just makes harder, even from your framing all the way up until your roof. If there's measurements missing, or if there's just a bit of overlap, it makes it hard.
Yeah. So, and I guess on that, on the detailed designs and making sure that you've got everything, in terms of design, and when you have the plans, and I guess compliance and what you guys have to really worry about, what's important. Like, so I'm across. You've got an available quirk, I guess you could say, of 10 to 20 mil that you can be out. What do you say about
that? We try to get all of our quirks pretty much bang on. But even with plans, like we understand that like there's a pretty big range of, differences from plans and existing houses. So we just make it work. Yeah. Okay, just off the cusp. That's just how it is. It's always been like that. And sometimes we don't make it to exactly the plan, but it will be pretty close within reason.
So yeah, so in terms of compliance and I guess certification and things like that, they're pretty lenient when it comes to, I guess, the measurements and I guess finishes and all your bits and pieces, as long as we're not straying too far and we're not adding extra structural details or taking any walls or making space that's not really right. So yeah. I mean, in terms of building and all the bits and pieces, what would you say your favorite part of the build would be?
Probably the finishing, because at the end of the day, that's what you're going to be looking at. So even though like I love roofing, love framing, it's good fun, but if you're doing detailed work with hardwood, you're doing like detailed cladding, nothing beats exposed, hardwood cladding and like fit out. So by far, I'd probably say that.
Because you do a lot of decks as well. So you do a lot of. I've seen heaps of decks that you've done, and they look amazing. And then you do like the herringbone joins, and you do like all the fancy finishes, which look absolutely red hot.
Yeah, and that's just going back like, the styles, the style of finishes that you can have is unlimited.
Are they normally conversations that you have with the clients when you first see them? Like, I mean, once they come and see us and we do a design for them, we talk to them to a certain degree of detail and all the bits and pieces that they would like. But, some clients don't even know that they want, different kind of styles of the way timber's laid, or a different timber finish or a different timber look.
Yeah. So if I'm ever in that position, like, because it is normally sorted out like through you guys, like once the architect's done with the design, clients are happy with that. But there is sometimes, there is no architect. We'll just have to lay out a few timbers, do a few patterns, see what they're interested in, and we just run with that.
Nice one. What's your favorite timber to work with?
Probably Taylorwood.
Taylorwood.
Yeah, it's just like it's a light timber. It's hardwood. You can't beat it. Even if you want it to grey off, it'll grey off in a few years, and people love the look of it.
Grey off is the discoloration. The starts to fade out. Yeah,
that's right. And that's the style of it. Yeah. And it will still last for another 10-15 years. Yeah. Just being grey.
And what do you think what do you think the upkeep of that one is compared to any of the other timbers that you would use to finish?
Well, the upkeep's tricky because like even if with a standard deck, for example, you need to oil it every year. Okay. But, obviously people get around to it maybe 5 years, sometimes even never. So, I'd probably say any hardwood would be easy to maintain because you can get away with that 2 year, give it a stain and you'll be right. But it all depends what the style you're after. Like I said, if you want it to look polished and, nice and bright every year, you'd have to oil it every year. But all hardwoods are generally pretty easy to work with. Spotted gum, Taylorwood, they last. They're long lasting. I wouldn't personally go for any pine. wouldn't last more than a week, but you know,
Well, well, because a lot of decks are done. Well, some people do a lot of decks out of their pine and things like that, and they finish them and things like that. And obviously that's what they do, and they'll send them back, and then they'll oil them up. And
yeah, that's right. Yeah, honestly, the pine is a great budget deck, and you know, people paint them, so you know, there's nothing wrong with that. If you paint it, then you know,
you might get a little bit longer out of it.
yeah,
A month or two.
that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess, in terms of the upkeep of the timbers and the hardwoods and bits and pieces, is there any advice that you'd give the listeners or the watchers to what they should do with their decks or with their finishes to, you know, some of their trims or anything like that, if they start to curl or if they start to warp or anything like that?
Yeah, I think standard maintaining, like cleaning your deck off. Just make sure you don't have leaves sitting on your deck for, you know, weeks on end. It's like anything really. It's the same as like your gutters. You don't want to leave like a mountain of leaves in your gutters for weeks, because then, you know, you'll just like your roof might get flooded or eaves, you know. So just general maintenance, cleaning, you know, it's not hard. Just pressure wash your deck if, you know, once a year. When we start getting hit by a lot of weather like we've seen recently, what do you there's a lot of problems with like timber rot and all your bits and pieces. What are the things to watch out for when you start to see the chipping or the flaking away? There's so much we can talk about there. You know, what are the things that people should be watching out for when we've got these weather patterns for damages to their timbers, both structural and I guess finish? Well, you'd probably want to make sure your area's got plenty of airflow. So if there's sitting water, you need to have a route for water to go. But it's just one of those things where like every house is different. Every, you know, geography of a, you know, garden, you know, I know it's pretty hard to leave trails for water to run to, and you know, timber does sit in the wet.
So do you think like the discoloration or anything like that to the bottom of the timbers or to your joins or, you know, between your ceiling and your walls and things like that, they're the things that you kind of watch out for if there's a bit of a leak going on, or like what's the rot look like at the bottom of an architrave if the water's sitting at the bottom of a window?
Yeah, you can tell because like it'll have like a even like a dark black, like a moldy look, and you can tell straight away because even if it's like a white paint, you can tell that it will start to go brown and then black, and that timber will just disappear. You'll be able to push it, it'll be spongy, and you know, in no time at all, it'll be gone.
So once the timber starts getting, I know this is probably going to be how long's a piece of string, but once you start to see that the sponginess of the timber around your windows or your door jambs and your bits and pieces, how long does that sit there before it starts affecting the rest of the structure?
As soon as it becomes hollow, that paint shield, water will easily be able to track in. So the paint isn't the problem because the paint will stay its shape. And that's why it's actually quite hard to tell that there's wood rot. So eventually, if you're poking around, even if it is clean white paint, and you poke a hole through the paint, that architrave could have been like that for years. Okay, and that would have slowly seeping moisture or water, and you'll be able to tell.
Have you got any horror stories like that?
No, not yet. Nothing that I've done anyways.
Nothing yet? Yeah, nice one. Well, that's lucky. Okay, and I guess when you've got your architraves, you find the damages and all your bits and pieces. Would you recommend them getting fixed as soon as possible? What would your steps go if you were to say, hey, a client comes up and says, hey, you know, I'm starting to poke holes through my timbers. What's your steps?
Well, tell them to stop poking holes. That's for sure. Yeah. But yeah, get onto it straight away. It's the same as the maintenance. It's knock it on the head, rip it all out, put new stuff in, even after you fix all the flashings. Yeah. Because there's a chance that with all that water, and you know, that leaves gaps for like bugs to get in or anything. Mice, it just...
starts tearing the whole place up. So flashings are the I guess the waterproofing course that sits underneath like windows and doors and all your bits and pieces, and they kind of get fixed into the frame. Or if you've got a brick course or anything like that, it gets attached to your weep holes and your bits and pieces. So they're incredibly important, I guess, for the water mitigation. Do you recommend anything in particular for that?
Once it's been built, it should be good forever. Obviously, like cladding does, disintegrate, especially if it's like either cedar or it's pine, FC. Eventually, it does rot away. So once the cladding has had its lifespan, your water will start tracking through, and then that's the flashings part that will start diverting all the water away. But same thing, just got to keep on top of it.
Start seeing that brown through the gyprock and through the paint and all that. That kind of just sits there.
Yeah, especially with your cladding. Like if your cladding starts to rot away, you need to get onto it, because next thing you know, you will get water into your gyprock. Then it's your floors.
It's a breeding ground for termites too. Like it's just, they just go, thanks very much, free feed.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if it's like after maybe 20, 30 years and all the treatment's gone, there's nothing stopping them.
And then once the termite damage is in there, it's all trouble, right? And then at the end of the day, there's got to be exploratory checks and things like that. And so I guess it's incredibly important to make sure the moment you see something bubbling, poking holes through, or even holes through your paint or through your cladding, or you've got your joints or your silicon joints there that are starting to wear away and starting to get like any brown colors anywhere throughout your gyprock or your roof to your ceiling to your wall, your joins. They're the times that you go, well, hang on a minute, we've got to call Dom and get it fixed up.
Right, and like even your termite proofing, so important. Like if your house doesn't have it, get somebody in to do the spray. Or even get someone to like do the liquid, drill some holes through every year or however long you need it to maintain, but get the termite proofing, because it will save you in the long run.
So, well, in terms of construction, and I guess formwork, what do you think are the key differences between a slab and a timber frame or a bearers and joists design?
Oh well, there's a lot of pros and cons, especially if you want to have like a solid surface, something that's going to have zero moisture come up through the ground. You're going to go concrete slab. You can tile it, you can lay floating floor, but you need to get your groundworks 100%. Get everything done from the start. So once you're doing your formwork, get your plumbing sorted, get your electrical sorted. Everything needs to be like knuckled down before you start pouring concrete. And that takes a bit of time to work out, and, obviously if everything's good, then the process is pretty quick because you're just framing on top and you're away. But even with your bearers and joists and your piers, if you need to, there's heaps of room. You can move things around at a later date if you want to. So there's lots of like leniency about where you can have things. If you need to move things, it's not that big of an issue. Or even if you're up off the ground like a meter, you got all that space. So,
In terms of design, we have to make sure, like when we're drawing our plans and things like that, we've got to make sure that we've got a 700 mil clearance from the finished floor level, which is finished floor to the natural surface, and then we've got to make sure that the drainage is away. So usually we would only resort to a bearers and joists as if we've got a decent fall on the block. Ideally, if a client doesn't want to step through the house, or they don't want to have multiple steps in the middle of the house, the first things that we would do is offer a bearers and joists option, because we can bring it out of the ground. Ideally, I think if we've got a massive fall in the block, that's probably where we land first, rather than
definitely. Like even if you're settled on the concrete, like you can go through the stage of like doing piers, do the deck, like the steel deck on top, and have formed concrete. But still, it's a lot of work.
You've got ultra floor and alpha flooring systems now as well. I think they're all like composite concretes. Have you had a whirl of those ones yet?
No, I've never heard of them.
All right.
Yeah, it's the first for me.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, some of them are great for basics. So yeah, it's one of those awesome products. But yeah. So I guess so you got the formwork of the concrete. Once the formwork of the concrete, in my opinion, it makes the house a lot more comfortable because like the thermal dynamics of the house is always going to be ideal. But I mean, if we've got a like a bearers and joist situation, we have to take extra care in I guess the insulating the subfloor. I mean, I dare say you would do it more often than I do. Have you insulated under?
Yeah. Most floors will have to insulate now, just to stop that cold moisture coming up from the ground. Even going as far as putting vents in the subfloor.
Yeah.
So even that, you would take out thousands of litres of, moisture out of your subframe, and it will change the longevity of your subfloor.
Because it becomes a breeding ground for mold too. I mean, once that moisture kind of sits in that soil, and you start getting like yellow and black mold just kind of hanging out underneath the piers and stuff. Like, it just absolutely runs havoc throughout the house and underneath the subfloor if you don't look after it, I suppose.
Yeah, that's right. Especially that's why we try to do vents in all the subframes. If they're even if it's between 300 and a meter high, doesn't matter. Like, do the vents. Get the airflow, and you won't have a problem.
Yeah. So there's a lot. So timber looks amazing. It looks great, feels great. There's a lot of amazing things about it, but in my opinion, the major downfall of timber is the upkeep, and you've got to really have that love for the timber or the look to maintain it, I suppose.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, you do need to be a lover of timber, I suppose, and you need to like the look, and it's a different feel though. So for me, I'm all timber, so it's warm feeling. All right, tiles on concrete, just cold, but
you're prepared for the work, right? So you look after it. Yeah, absolutely. All right, awesome. So I guess to close up, I mean, do you have any opinions or drives for anything, for any other designers or draftees when you get plans or anything that you want to see? Is there anything that you want to see happen? Is there anything that you want your plans to look like, or is there anything that you want your clients to know before coming to you?
Now, the biggest thing is communicate. Don't leave anything missed. Just write down everything. That way, everyone's on the same page. Even with your trades, write it down for your trades. Even so, everyone's on the same ballpark, and there's nothing can go wrong.
Everybody's aware of everything. Quotes are clear. Everything's written down. Numbers are there. That's A1, right?
It's no different to a contract, right? Even like on site, contracts change, right? The client wants something different. Write it down on the spot and sign it. Could be anything.
Do you have, I guess for clients and when they call up, do you have, if someone asks you for something or if there's a price on anything, is there usually something that you would go, yeah, you know what, I've done a job similar to that before. You can expect X amount of, do you work in square meter rates, but you can expect like this how much?
Yeah, I do work in square meter rates, and I try to. It's just faster, but there is, every job's different. So obviously, but just tell them, be honest up front. Don't leave anything out. Nice and clear. Yeah, if it's going to cost an absolute bomb, tell them that's how it is. Because it's not hard. Then that way everyone's aware. No one's shocked. Yeah. If you miss out on the job, then it's not your fault.
It's clear quotes. It's clear quotes. It's clear communication. It's clear. It's clear to talk to the clients about what you provide and what you can give them. And if it's all down there on paper, it's all written. Everybody's aware of what they're doing. There's nothing that can be wrong, right?
Exactly. And like no question stupid.
No. Well, yeah, 100%, absolutely, every day. So tell me, what's your range? What's your range between your square meter rate?
Well, it's a pretty big range because the difference in work that we do, from like framing to fit out, from roofs, the numbers, they're all over the place. So, you know, even for decking to composite even. So there's $200 difference in, you know, a timber deck to a composite deck, okay, in square meter rate. So, you know, it varies.
So if a client was to come up and say, hey, listen, Dom, I want you to do a frame, like a framing, a 2-story frame for me. What could they expect of a range of between a square meter rate of a 2-story frame?
For a 2-story frame, it just depends. Like if you've got bathrooms, if it's just a plain
new build reno,
you could be looking at between $1,000 and $3,000 a square meter. Okay, but that depends on like the quality of the builder. Okay, so that, you know, just depends.
But that's just the framing too, though, right? That's just the framing. And I guess in terms of because that's just the framing. There's obviously a whole lot of other stuff that they have to be worrying about after the framing. Like you know, chippies come in, they bang the frames up, and then they've got all the plumbing and the electrical and all the bits and pieces. So there's the framing, and what can they expect for let's call it a deck? What's a square meter rate for a deck that they can usually expect, composite or not?
Yeah, well, even if it's a like a hardwood deck, you could probably sit around $250 to $350 a square meter. Okay, but composite, you're probably looking around $400 to $500 a square meter. Okay.
So those are great. Those are great numbers for the clients. I mean, if someone's turning around saying, "Well, righto, I'm ready to do, use a builder or even use, an owner builder out like that," at least they're things in numbers that they can kind of hold on to. That's a great number. I mean, it's something that they can kind of expect.
Yeah, that's right. And even still, like they can, even if they get other builders to do the quotes, you know, they can know where people sit. Every quote's going to be different.
Absolutely. There's always margin. Builders change their margins, 10, 20, 30%. Yeah, depending on client. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, no, of course. So yeah, that's incredibly fruitful. Do you do retaining walls as well? I don't think I've seen you do a retaining wall yet.
Not too often. But, you know, they might come around once in a blue moon.
Yeah. And I mean, retaining walls are incredibly expensive, full stop. Like, I don't think I know of any retaining walls that are relatively cheap.
No, that's right.
I've known a lot of people to spend the same amount of money on a retaining wall than they have the house. So I guess, do you have an indication of a retaining wall cost?
I concrete all day. Yeah. Because even if it's the concrete sleepers, okay, you got nothing to worry about. The timber, yeah, like the pine does look good, especially if you have, you know, a lot of bush in your backyard or front yard. The timber will blend in, but longevity, the concrete sleepers will just, you know, they can disappear. They're grey, or you can paint them black. Steel post and concrete.
They don't rot. That's
right.
They don't rot. They stay forever, don't they? So as long as it's engineered and installed properly, then away you go. What do you reckon the cost difference or the cost variance between the two are?
Oh, I think it could be huge. I'm not 100% because I don't do it too often, but I do know that sleepers are a cheap budget option.
Yep, that's concrete sleepers.
No, they're pine.
Oh, pine.
Yeah, pine sleepers. Super cheap, easy, can't go wrong. Yeah. The concrete, I think they'll be up there. But it'll be worth it because, you know, you can span between posts.
About 2 meters, I think it was. Or 1,800, 2 meters, something like that. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, I mean, have you got anything for me? Any questions for me?
No, I love your plan, so leave it at that, eh?
No, I'll keep that, mate. That's perfect. All right, mate. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it. And guys, I hope you found that insightful. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Dom out on his Instagram at DBC Northern Edge. And if you have any questions for me, or if you want him to have him back and ask a few more questions, feel free to like and subscribe and reach out, and we'll get him back on.